Welcome back from me too. Hope you missed me. I've been doing school stuff. I've been doing work stuff. So here I am with a review in 2023. Yay! I will be doing a video of the top 10 favorite movies that I saw in 2022 paired with my least favorite movies of 2022. I won't say best and worst because it's all subjective, but that's beside the point. That's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about 2023 movie M3GAN. Um, this is directed by Gerard Johnstone. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's how we're going with it. Um, and the story is by James Wan and Akela Cooper, but is only written by Akela Cooper. So definitely I definitely want to just shout her out because both Malignant and M3GAN have just been absolutely wild and so fun. So props, you're doing something great. um, yeah, this movie also stars Allison Williams as Gemma. Uh, she is of Get Out fame. And we have Violet McGraw as Katie, who played young Nell in uh, Haunting of Hill House. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this movie a little bit, shall we? So it was probably the biggest surprise of the year for me. And I know we just started this year, but like when I saw that trailer come out, I was like, "Oh God, that looks ridiculous." And when she started dancing, I'm like it's gonna be camp. It's gonna be camp. Even if it's like bad, it's still gonna be campy. Um, so I was at least looking forward to that. Uh, I just knew that it was gonna be fun at the very least. What I didn't expect is for it to be good. So honestly, go home. Just kidding. Stay around. Stay around. Yeah, it has a bit more to say than I was really expecting about parenthood and just kind of like being vulnerable with your emotions, allowing yourself to be vulnerable with your emotions, um, knowing how to parent, knowing how to implement technology. Uh, I think it is kind of a critique of all the parents that have been using uh, technology as like a second parent system, like secondhand parent system, and that really comes across. But I think what's so interesting about this movie is it has an emotional center to it. It has an emotional core that actually works because both Katie and Gemma are very well developed in this movie. Like we get them both as multidimensional human beings and not just girl, sad past, woman who is now the protector. Like there's a lot of really cool things that this movie does that I think should be talked about. And a lot of things that I'm surprised that the killer doll genre has not done yet. So let's get into that. This will not be spoilery. I promise you, this will not be spoilery, but something that has always bugged me about killer doll movies is that it always focuses on like the child and the horror of not being understood and heard. And I feel like that has run its course. We've had that before many times. I don't think we exactly need it again because, as we saw with the Child's Play remake, it's kind of past shelf life a little bit. Speaking of Child's Play remake, let's talk about that IGN poll quote for a second. Okay, you guys won this time. This time. But I digress. What I really enjoyed about this movie is that it was about somebody who was trying to do something good for a family member and ended up falling into a psychological trap, which was not at all her intention. Um, psychological, philosophical. Like, it's this one big question of when you try and create something to take the place, like in a role that you yourself don't want to fill, what happens when that role suddenly needs to be revoked? What happens to the creator? What happens to the kid that has had this secondary parent? And I think it goes through that very well. Instead of having a child that is not believed, not seen by an adult, we have an adult that is not being able to properly get through to the child. And I feel like that was a really cool spinning it on its head. It was a bit more fresh. Now, is this full story original? No. It's still overall something that we've seen before. I just think that how it's done is a bit more original than a lot of other movies that I've seen in the subgenre. So let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is, if you've seen this movie, you would understand why I'm bringing this up. The PG-13 rating. Yeah. Um, this is one of those rare occasions where I will look at a PG-13 rating and say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But not because, like, the content is mild. No. Like, Akela Cooper herself has also said that there is an unrated cut of this movie that will probably be coming out physical. Um, but there is an unrated cut that's way gorier. And some people have asked, well, why didn't you just have this movie be rated R in the first place? I got an answer for you. For once, I actually think that this answer works. It is to make the movie more accessible. Unlike a movie like Black Christmas 2019, which took out all violence to the point where it doesn't make any sense, the way it's edited in this movie allows for us to understand that something very, very gruesome is happening on screen. So we know the fate of certain characters. It's just like we don't get to see that fully. Fully. There's still some gory moments for you in here. I think that's what was so unexpected is that, yes, this is a very gory movie. That said, I'm looking forward to that unrated cut. But let me get into why I think this is accessible. Because I think that this storyline, the message behind this movie about parenthood, is both applicable to the parent as well as the child. So if you have this movie be rated R, you're blocking off half of the intended audience here. So you're just having parent seeing this movie. And while, yeah, some older teenagers can see it, and some kids can go see it with their parent or legal guardian with them for an R-rated movie, it just wouldn't have the same overall effect. And I honestly feel as if they had gone for the R rating, that it wouldn't have worked. Like, yeah, it's campy. It's still campy. It still would have been campy. I just feel like it wouldn't have been that proper balance of camp and accessibility and violence. Like, we need to have a good balance for, like, putting it out into theaters. If you want to have an unrated cut, that is absolutely fine. They've already said that they're going to have an unrated cut. But in this scenario, I think that they made the right call to edit it down to PG-13, because the only thing that's really going to push it above into the R territory is the violence. That said, like, the themes of this movie work best for a general audience of PG-13. So I think that them doing that was probably the best choice. I will be buying that Blu-ray though. So there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and that was how I think there will be plenty of moments in this movie, because I believe that there's a good emotional core in this movie. I almost started to Like, I started to feel a little sad, a little not exactly teary, uh, during a bit during the movie. That's not grammatically correct, but whatever. We're gonna go with it. Hi, I'm a writer. There's a bit during the movie, um, where Katie is having a meltdown, and I love how they handle that scene. I love it. Um, and there are plenty of moments like that that are heartfelt, and there's the last like 20 minutes. Like, if you loved Malignant, like how batshit it gets in the last few minutes of the movie, minutes, last like 20-30 minutes of that movie, you will still have a blast with M3GAN, with how wild it gets at the end. Like, if you're a fan of Child's Play, if you're a fan of, strangely enough, Terminator, you are going to have a blast with this movie. It is a lot of fun. So, that's it for this review. But there is something else I wanted to talk about. Very interesting phenomena. So, for the longest time, every single horror movie that came out in January was a dump. Like, a lot of the time, they ended up not being good movies. I kind of feel bad for some of them because they were like, I wouldn't exactly say close to being good, but like some of them, like The Turning, had promise of being good. It's just how it was handled, I didn't think was good, especially since it just ends. We don't like movies that just end. Um, but starting in like 2020, they've had like a horror movie that comes out each year in January that is genuinely good. And I'm always taken off guard because I'm like, wait, hold on, you're supposed to be the dump month. What is this? So like 2020, we had Underwater, love it or hate it. I think that it is still good, and I think that it coming out in January was a strange placement, but also I don't I don't think that would have survived any other time of the year, especially it being 2020. 2021, we had PG Psycho Gorman, which went on to Shudder. I recommend getting Shudder if you love horror, horror content, horror movies, horror shows, etc., horror documentaries. Um, and then in 2022, we had Five Cream. Now we have M3GAN, M3GAN. Um, so I'm just kind of not exactly baffled, but I'm very much surprised by this just sudden explosion of good horror movies coming out in January, let alone M3GAN coming out the very first weekend, the very first box office weekend of January. M3GAN comes out and it's actually good. I'm surprised. I am genuinely surprised. I did not see this coming in the slightest. Um, so yeah, M3GAN, it's a very fun movie. I recommend it. I recommend seeing it in theaters. Um, you'll have fun with it. It's not like the deepest, it's not the most original, but it is definitely a good time. So I give a recommend. I think you should go see it in theaters and support all the people who worked on this project. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, might have, but this is the second movie that Gerard Johnstone has directed. The first one that he did was 2014's New Zealand horror comedy called Housebound, which I think is massively underrated. Please go watch that. And that's where I'm going to end this video. Hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with friends and family. Follow me on my social media points down below. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. All right. Take care. Bye.